Hi, I have a lot of clients that call me and the first thing they ask me is, can you tell me what my options are? That's like saying, what type of car should I buy? It all depends. Options depend on you. Depends on your situation and depends on what you want to do and how much money you're willing to invest in it. So it really depends, and that's why I highly encourage clients to book a proper consultation so we can have that conversation. Emails are okay, but I don't get to understand your situation the way I would if I had a phone conversation or a Zoom conversation with you. But just to summarize on what things you need to consider when we're looking at options for you are things like how much money are you willing to invest in a business or even into the immigration process. Your age, your education, your work experience all play a factor. Do you have someone that can offer you a job? All of these questions I need answered before I can outline some possible options for you. Immigration to Canada, there's many routes, as I'm sure you're aware, but you can really narrow it down and make it 5 big options. I call it the 5 big umbrella. So the big one is temporary to permanent, right? So you come here temporarily and then you stay and then you turn it into permanent. So a visitor could essentially come here as a visit on a visit visa, apply for jobs, maybe get a job offer, turn it into another temporary document called a work permit supported by an LMIA, work for that company, and then eventually apply under the express entry. Or a student, for example, can then get a PGW work permit, then apply under express entry under CEC based on Canadian work experience. So temporary to permanent is one of the best options to immigrate to Canada. If that's not an option for you, the economic route could be an option. Economic route is exactly that. How will you benefit Canada economically, right? What kind of financial attributes can you provide Canada? The biggest one is the express entry. You're divided into age, education, language, and work experience. But what really immigration is looking at is, if I give you permanent residency, how many years do I have with you? How can you be a permanent resident of Canada, eventually a Canadian citizen, and how will you benefit the economy of Canada? So based on your work, your age, your education, your language, etc. So the younger you are, the more points you get. The higher the education, the more points you get. The more work experience you have, especially in Canada, the more points you get, etc. Under the economic route, there's other routes, such as the caregiver. So there are certain professions that each province, and some of them federally, so caregiver is a federal application, that have been determined by Canada as lack of expertise available in Canada itself. So there's a list. Caregiver is one of them. There are a lot of professional mothers and fathers that would like to go back to work after having a child, but then they can't because no one's there to take care of that child. So a caregiver is needed so both parents can go to work. Same as a caregiver for elderly. A lot of people now have to take care of their aging parents, and instead of them doing it, they hire a caregiver so they can go back to work. So those are options under the economic route. And the good thing is that the IELTS requirement and some of the other requirements are much less versus, let's say, the express entry. So that's another option we can look at. A third option, which I actually think is one of the last options you should consider, but I'll mention it in this video, is humanitarian and compassionate as well as refugee cases. So these are applications where really it's your last resort. It should not be your first. Because if these applications get denied, you get deported from Canada or you get a deportation order. And to overcome that, it could be quite difficult. So make sure that if you are submitting an H&C or a refugee application, that truly you don't have any other options available to you. H&C and refugee are very similar, very identical, but there's a distinction. With a refugee, you do need to demonstrate fear of persecution if Canada had to send you back to your home country. Versus H&C, you don't need to demonstrate that. What you do need to demonstrate is that you don't have any other options and that you have made a life for yourself. You've established yourself in Canada. And truly, there's no other option for you, including going back to your home country. So that's another option we can look at. Fourth thing, big category, big umbrella, are the investor categories. So this is where business individuals come here, purchase a business, or create an existing business, and then they go into the investor category. Again, there are federal routes under investor categories, and then there's provinces called provincial nominee program investor programs. So we can look at that if that's an option. Last but not least, the big umbrella is family sponsorship. So spouse would be one, common law would be another, conjugal falls under this, parental sponsorship, child sponsorship. So basically family sponsorship. Key question I always get is, can I sponsor my aunt? Can I sponsor my uncle? Can I sponsor my niece? And unfortunately, the answer is no. The big individuals that you can sponsor are children, minors, under 22 or under, parents, and obviously your common law, conjugal, or spouse. Other family members can be sponsored, but it's under the relative category, and they're quite difficult, and they're very strict on what the requirements are for you to be able to sponsor that. If you would like more about your options, please give us a call. We're here to help. Thank you, and until next time.